Let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually felt motivated? Not the fake 5-minute burst you get from a quote or a video. Not the "I'll start tomorrow" feeling. I mean real motivation, the kind that gets you out of bed, pushes you forward, and makes you believe, even a little, that change is possible. If your answer is, "I don't remember," this message is for you. Because right now, you might be thinking something like this: "I know what I should do. I just don't feel like doing it. I'm tired. I'm stuck. I've tried before and nothing changed." And here's the scary part. The longer you wait for motivation to show up, the longer your life stays exactly the same. Let's get something out of the way immediately. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are human. And most people have been lied to about motivation. The lie about motivation: we're told motivation comes first. That one day you'll wake up inspired. That you'll suddenly feel ready. That the fire will just appear, and then you'll act. But listen closely. Motivation doesn't create action. Action creates motivation. Read that again. Action creates motivation. If you've been waiting to feel motivated before starting, you've been waiting in the wrong direction. And that's not your fault. Nobody taught you this. If you feel stuck, this is why most people don't lack motivation. They lack clarity, energy, and belief. You're overwhelmed. You're overthinking. You're carrying fear, self-doubt, comparison, and past failures in your head every single day. Of course you feel unmotivated. Anyone would. When your mind is constantly asking, "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What's the point?" Motivation doesn't disappear, it gets buried. And the worst part, you start blaming yourself for it. Let me say this clearly. Low motivation is often a signal, not a flaw. It's your mind saying, something here needs to change. You're not alone. Even if it feels like you are right now, someone else is lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling guilty for not doing more. Someone else is scrolling endlessly, avoiding their own thoughts. Someone else is quietly wondering, is this really my life? And maybe that someone is you. You have dreams you haven't given up on. You've just stopped talking about them. Stopped believing in them. Stopped trusting yourself to follow through. Not because you don't care, but because caring hurts when nothing changes. So you numb it. You distract yourself. You wait. But deep down you still want more. And that matters. Here's the truth you need to hear: you do not need more motivation. You need permission to start where you are. You need to stop trying to feel powerful before you move, and start moving so you can feel powerful again. Because confidence doesn't come from thinking. It comes from evidence. And evidence only comes from action. Even small action. Especially small action. One step forward is still forward. Progress beats perfection. You don't need to see the whole path, just the next step. Those aren't just quotes. They're lifelines. What this video is really about: this video is not about hyping you up for 10 minutes and leaving you the same afterward. This is about helping you understand why motivation disappears, why you feel stuck even when you want more, and how to rebuild momentum. Without waiting to feel ready, we're going to talk about self-awareness, understanding what's really draining you mindset, the beliefs quietly running your life, why discipline beats motivation every time, and how to move forward even on days when you feel empty. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about reconnecting with who you already are. A moment of honesty. Ask yourself this. No judgment, just honesty. When did I stop trusting myself? When did I start playing small to avoid disappointment? What would change if I stopped waiting to feel motivated and just started? Because here's something most people never realize. You don't find motivation by waiting. You find it by showing up, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. If this feels personal, good, that means you're still awake inside, still aware, still capable of change. The fact that you're listening right now means a part of you hasn't quit. It's just tired of false promises and quick fixes. And that's okay. Real growth is quieter than hype. It's built in moments like this, moments where you decide to listen instead of scroll, to reflect instead of avoid, to begin instead of wait. Where we go next before you can rebuild motivation, you have to understand yourself, your patterns, your habits, your mental loops. Because once you see clearly what's been holding you back, you stop fighting yourself and start working with yourself. In the next section, we're going to dive into self-awareness and mindset, how to recognize what's draining your motivation, how to stop judging yourself for it, and how to shift from feeling stuck to feeling capable again. Not overnight, not magically, but honestly, sustainably, for real. So stay with me, because this might be the moment everything starts to change. If motivation feels like it's disappeared from your life, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't need to push harder. You need to understand yourself better. Because most people aren't unmotivated. They're misunderstood, especially by themselves. And self-awareness is where everything begins. Why self-awareness changes everything. Self-awareness is the ability to step back and notice how you think, how you react, what drains you, what energizes you, what patterns keep repeating in your life. Without self-awareness, you fight yourself. With self-awareness, you finally start working with yourself. Think about it. You can't fix what you refuse to look at. You can't change patterns you don't recognize. And you can't build motivation on top of confusion and self-judgment. Clarity creates calm. Calm creates confidence. Confidence creates action. That's the chain. You're not lazy. You're out of alignment. Let's dismantle one of the most damaging beliefs people carry. If I was disciplined, I wouldn't feel like this. That's not true. Many people feel unmotivated because their lives are built around other people's expectations, old versions of themselves, goals they no longer believe in, fear of disappointing others, fear of failing themselves. When your actions don't align with your values, motivation disappears. Not because you're weak, but because your system is protecting you. Your lack of motivation might actually be wisdom. It might be your mind saying, "This doesn't feel right anymore." And that's powerful information. If you listen instead of judge, understanding your strengths, not just your flaws. Most people know their weaknesses. Very few truly know their strengths. Your strengths aren't just talents. They're patterns of energy. Ask yourself, what feels natural to me? When do I lose track of time? What do people come to me for? When do I feel most like myself? Motivation grows when you build around your strengths instead of constantly fighting your weaknesses. You don't need to become someone else. You need to design your life around who you already are. Affirmation: I don't need to fix myself. I need to understand myself. Your habits are telling a story. Habits are not random. They are responses. If you procrastinate, it's not because you're lazy. It's usually because the task feels overwhelming. You're afraid of doing it wrong. You associate it with pressure or shame. You don't see immediate reward. If you numb yourself with distractions, it's often because you're emotionally overloaded. You don't feel safe. Slowing down, you're avoiding disappointment or uncertainty. Self-awareness means asking why, not attacking yourself for the behavior. Question: what is this habit protecting me from? That question alone can change everything. A mindset shift that unlocks motivation. Here's a truth that changes how you see yourself. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your beliefs. If deep down you believe, "I always mess things up. I never finish what I start. I'm behind in life. It's too late for me," your mind will quietly sabotage your effort to stay consistent with that identity. This is why mindset matters more than hype. You don't need louder motivation. You need a new relationship with yourself. A story of mindset transformation. There was someone who felt completely burned out. They weren't failing. but they weren't alive either. Every day felt heavy. They had goals, but no energy. Dreams, but no drive. Instead of forcing productivity, they did something different. They started observing their thoughts. They noticed how often they said, "I should be doing more. I'm behind. I'm not enough." That inner pressure was draining everything. So they replaced it with curiosity instead of criticism. They asked, "What actually matters to me now? What pace do I need to move at to stay sane?" They rebuilt from compassion. And slowly, motivation came back. Not as pressure, but as clarity. That's what mindset does. It changes how effort feels. From fixed mindset to growth mindset, a fixed mindset says, "This is just how I am. I'm bad at this. There's no point trying again." A growth mindset says, "I can learn. This doesn't define me." Progress counts, even when it's slow. Motivation thrives in environments where effort is safe, where failure isn't a verdict, it's feedback. Quote to remember: every version of you is necessary to become who you are now. Practical exercise, the awareness check-in. Take a moment. Actually pause. Ask yourself, what drains my energy the most right now? What gives me even a small sense of peace or excitement? What belief about myself feels heavy or limiting? Is that belief a fact or a habit? Write the answers down. Don't edit them. Don't judge them. Awareness is not about fixing. It's about seeing clearly. Rewriting the inner narrative you talk to yourself more than anyone else ever will. That voice matters. Start noticing how you speak to yourself when you're tired, when you make mistakes, when you don't follow through. Then ask, would I speak to someone I care about this way? If the answer is no, it's time to change the tone. Affirmations to practice. I'm allowed to learn as I go. I don't need to rush my growth. I can be disciplined without being cruel to myself. Momentum grows from self-trust. Motivation comes from identity, not pressure. The most motivated people don't wake up inspired every day. They wake up aligned. They see themselves as someone who shows up, someone who learns from setbacks, someone who honors commitments. Even small ones. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior reinforces identity. Start small. I am someone who takes one step, even when I don't feel like it. That belief alone can restart momentum. You're not behind. You're becoming. If you've been judging yourself for feeling unmotivated, stop. You're not broken. You're not late. You're not failing. You're in a transition. And transitions feel uncomfortable because the old identity no longer fits, but the new one isn't fully built yet. That's not weakness. That's growth. Where we go next, self-awareness shows you why you feel the way you do. Mindset determines how you respond. But clarity without direction still leads nowhere. In the next section, we're going to talk about goal setting and planning for success. Not overwhelming goals, not pressure-based plans, but realistic, meaningful steps that work with your energy instead of against it. Because motivation doesn't come from dreaming harder. It comes from seeing a clear, doable path forward. And we're about to build that path together. Let's talk about something that changes everything once you get it right. Because motivation doesn't disappear for no reason. Most of the time, it disappears when you don't know where you're going or how to get there. That's where goals and planning come in. Not rigid rules, not overwhelming to-do lists, but clear direction. Why goals reignite motivation? When your mind doesn't see a clear path forward, it shuts down. It avoids. It procrastinates. It distracts. Not because you don't care, but because uncertainty feels unsafe. A clear goal tells your brain, this matters. This is possible. There is a next step. And when your brain sees a next step, motivation starts to return. Clarity reduces anxiety. Direction creates energy. That's why goal setting isn't about pressure. It's about relief. The problem with most goals, most people don't fail because they aim too high. They fail because they aim too vaguely. I want to be successful. I want to be happier. I want to get in shape. Those aren't goals, they're wishes. Your mind can't act on vague ideas. It needs specifics. So instead of asking, what do I want eventually? Start asking, what does progress look like this month? Step 1. Choose one meaningful goal. If motivation is low, trying to fix everything at once will backfire. Pick one area of your life that matters most right now. Not 5, not 10. 1. Ask yourself, what would make the biggest positive difference in my life over the next 90 days? What goal would reduce stress instead of adding pressure? Focus creates power. Affirmation, I don't need to do everything. I need to do one thing consistently. Step 2. Make the goal clear and real. Here's a simple framework you can actually stick to. Instead of, I want to be healthier. Try. For the next 30 days, I will walk for 20 minutes, 5 days a week. Instead of, I want to work on my dreams. Try. I will spend 30 minutes a day developing my skill or project. Clear goals eliminate overthinking. You don't have to decide what to do every day. You already decided. Step 3. Break the goal into small actions. This is where most people either succeed or quit. Big goals don't motivate. Small, doable actions do. Ask, what can I do daily or weekly that moves this forward? What action feels slightly uncomfortable, but doable? Think in minimum commitments. Not, I'll work on this for hours, but I'll show up for 20 minutes. Momentum loves consistency, even on low-energy days. A story about planning and persistence. There was someone who felt completely unmotivated. They had ambition, but no direction. They decided to stop waiting to feel inspired. Instead, they made a simple plan, 1 hour a day. Same time, same place. No pressure to be perfect. No expectation of immediate results. Some days were productive. Some days were slow. Some days they just showed up. But after months of consistency, something shifted. Confidence grew. Skills improved. Momentum became automatic. They didn't change because they felt motivated. They became motivated because they changed their behavior. That's how planning works. Step 4. Plan for reality, not perfection. Here's the truth. Your plan must work on bad days, not just good ones. So ask yourself, what will I do when I'm tired? What's the bare minimum version of this habit? How can I stay consistent even when motivation is low? Example, if you miss a workout, you still stretch. If you can't write a page, you write one sentence. If you lose focus, you reset, not quit. Consistency doesn't mean intensity. It means return. Overcoming procrastination. Procrastination isn't laziness. It's usually fear or overwhelm. Here's how to beat it. Lower the entry point, make starting ridiculously easy. Time box your effort, set a timer. When it ends, you stop. This reduces pressure and builds trust with yourself. Remove distractions. Environment matters more than willpower. Reward follow-through. Celebrate showing up, not just results. Quote to remember, you don't have to feel ready. You just have to begin. Staying disciplined without burning out. Discipline doesn't mean forcing yourself through misery. Real discipline is self-respect in action. It's saying, I keep promises to myself. I don't wait for perfect conditions. I show up even when it's uncomfortable. Build discipline by keeping commitments small, tracking progress, visually reflecting weekly, not obsessing daily. Discipline grows when you trust yourself. Trust grows when you follow through. Direct message to you, you can do this. Not because you're suddenly motivated, but because you're willing to take one step at a time. You don't need a dramatic breakthrough. You need a plan that works on ordinary days. Start where you are. Use what you have. Move forward anyway. Reflection exercise. Take a moment and answer. What is my main focus for the next 30 days? What is one daily action I commit to? When will I do it? What will I do when I don't feel like it? Write it down. That's your plan. Not for forever, just for now. Where this leads next, even with a clear plan, challenges will appear. Doubt will show up. Life will interrupt you. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. In the next section, we're going to talk about facing challenges and overcoming obstacles, how to stay grounded when things get hard, how to build resilience, and how to keep going when motivation fades again. Because progress isn't about never struggling. It's about learning how to move forward through it. And you're closer than you think. Let's be honest for a moment. No matter how clear your goals are, no matter how strong your plan is, there will be days when everything feels heavier than it should. Days when motivation disappears. Days when doubt gets loud. Days when you wonder if any of this is even worth it. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Obstacles are not a sign that you're failing. They are proof that you're moving forward. If you weren't growing, there would be no resistance. The real challenges people face on the path to becoming your best self. The challenges are rarely dramatic. They're subtle, they're quiet, and they repeat. It's feeling behind while everyone else seems ahead, losing momentum after early excitement fades, dealing with self-doubt that whispers, "Who do you think you are?" Starting strong, then stopping when life gets busy, watching progress feel slower than you expected, and sometimes it's not just internal. It's lack of support, criticism from others, financial pressure, emotional exhaustion, past failures resurfacing. If you've experienced any of this, you're not weak. You're human. Why most people quit? Most people don't quit because they can't succeed. They quit because they believe struggle means they're not meant for it. But think about this for a moment. When you first learned to walk, you fell. When you first learned to speak, you stumbled. When you first tried anything meaningful, you struggled. Struggle has never been a sign to stop. It's always been part of the process. Quote, "Growth feels like discomfort before it feels like confidence." A story of resilience. There was someone who set out with a dream. They planned carefully. They showed up consistently. And then they failed. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Rejection, mistakes, missed opportunities. Every failure felt personal. Every setback felt like confirmation of their fears. But instead of quitting, they asked a different question. What can this teach me? They adjusted. They refined. They kept going, slower, wiser, more grounded. Years later, people called their success overnight. But what they didn't see were the nights of doubt, the moments of almost quitting, the resilience built in silence. Success didn't come from avoiding failure. It came from refusing to let failure decide the ending. Resilience is a skill, not a trait. Some people believe resilience is something you're born with. That's a lie. Resilience is built. Every time you keep going when it's uncomfortable, every time you recover instead of quit, every time you try again, you're training your nervous system to trust you. Resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being willing to rebuild. How to build mental toughness without burning out. Mental toughness doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means responding to pain with intention. Here's how you do that. 1. Separate identity from outcome. You are not your results. You are not your mistakes. You are not your slow days. Failure is an event, not a definition. Affirmation. I can fail and still be worthy. 2. Reframe the narrative. Instead of, "This is too hard," try, "This is challenging and I'm learning." Instead of, "I'm not motivated," try, "I'm building consistency even when it's uncomfortable." Your inner dialogue shapes your resilience. 3. Practice emotional regulation. When emotions spike, logic shuts down. So, Pause before reacting, breathe before quitting, give yourself time before deciding anything permanent. Strong people don't suppress emotions. They learn how to move through them. Rhetorical questions that matter. Ask yourself, what if this obstacle is shaping me, not stopping me? What if I don't need motivation, just courage? What would happen if I kept going one more week? What would my future self thank me for right now? Sometimes, the right question is more powerful than the right answer. Another story, the quiet comeback. Someone once walked away from their goal. Life got overwhelming. Motivation disappeared. Shame took over. They told themselves, it's too late. Months passed, then years. One day, they decided to try again. Not aggressively, not perfectly, just honestly. They started small. They stayed patient. They stopped comparing. And something incredible happened. Progress returned. Confidence rebuilt. Joy resurfaced. Not because they were perfect, but because they were resilient enough to begin again. Starting again is not failure. It's strength. How to keep going when motivation is gone? Here's a secret. Motivation is not required for progress. Commitment is. When motivation fades, shrink the task, focus on the process, show up anyway. Some days, resilience looks like pushing forward. Other days, it looks like resting without quitting. Both matter. Affirmations for resilience. Say these to yourself. I can handle discomfort. This challenge is temporary. I am becoming stronger through this. I don't need perfect conditions to keep going. I trust myself to adapt. Say them even when you don't believe them yet. Belief grows with repetition. The power of perspective. Every obstacle asks you a question. Will you let this stop you or shape you? The people you admire didn't avoid challenges. They learned how to move through them with grace. You're doing the same, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. A moment of truth. If you're still here, still listening, still trying, that already says something about you. You are not broken. You are not incapable. You are not behind. You are building resilience in real time. What comes next? Resilience prepares you, but action sustains you. In the next section, we're talking about taking action and maintaining momentum. How to move forward even when energy is low. How to build consistency that lasts. How to turn resilience into real results. Because obstacles don't disappear when you grow, but your ability to handle them does. And you're more capable than you've been giving yourself credit for. Let's get something straight right now. You do not need more motivation. You need momentum. Because motivation comes and goes, but momentum changes lives. And momentum is built the same way every time. Through small actions, repeated consistently, even when you don't feel like it. This is where everything shifts. The truth about action: most people wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel inspired. They wait for confidence. They wait for clarity. But the people who actually change their lives, they start before they feel ready. They start while they're tired. They start while they're unsure. They start while motivation is nowhere to be found. Quote, action doesn't follow confidence. Confidence follows action. If you're waiting for motivation, you'll wait forever. If you move first, motivation catches up. Why consistency beats intensity every time? You don't need to go all in. You don't need a dramatic transformation. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. What you need is consistency. 10 minutes a day beats 0. 1 page beats no pages. 1 step beats standing still. Because consistency compounds. A little effort today, a little more tomorrow, and suddenly, you're further than you ever imagined. Affirmation: small steps, done daily, create massive change. The myth of the perfect routine. Here's another trap people fall into. They try to create the perfect routine. They plan 5-hour morning rituals. They set impossible schedules. They aim for perfection. And when they can't keep up, they quit. Instead, build routines that fit your life. Consistency is about sustainability, not perfection. Ask yourself, what can I do even on my worst days? What feels manageable, not overwhelming? What can I repeat without burning out? That's where consistency lives. Breaking goals into daily habits. Big goals feel heavy. Daily habits feel doable. So stop focusing on the mountain. Focus on the next step. Instead of, I want to change my life, ask, what can I do today that supports the life I want? Examples: want to get healthier? Walk for 10 minutes. Want to build confidence? Keep one promise to yourself today. Want to create something meaningful? Work on it for 15 minutes. Want mental clarity? Write one honest page. These actions may feel small, but they're powerful because they're repeatable. A story of consistent action. There was someone who wanted more meaning, more fulfillment, more growth. They didn't have endless energy. They didn't have constant motivation, but they made one decision. I'll show up every day, even if it's imperfect. Some days, progress was visible. Other days, it felt pointless. But they kept going. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into results. Results turned into belief. And one day, they realized they weren't chasing motivation anymore. They had built discipline. They had built trust with themselves. Consistency changed everything. The power of identity-based action. Here's a shift that changes the game. Stop asking, what do I want to achieve? Start asking, who do I want to become? Then act accordingly. If you want to be someone who respects themselves, show up today, trust themselves. Keep one promise, grows consistently. Take one action, builds momentum. Don't quit. Each action is a vote for your future identity. Quote, every action you take is shaping who you are becoming. What to do when you don't feel like it? Let's be real. Some days will feel heavy. Some days you won't want to do anything. That's normal. Here's how you handle those days. 1. Lower the bar, but don't drop it. If you can't do everything, do something. 5 minutes still counts. One step still matters. Showing up matters more than how well you perform. 2. Focus on starting, not finishing. Starting is the hardest part. Tell yourself, I'll just begin. Momentum often shows up after you start. 3. Remove friction. Make good habits easier. Make bad habits harder. Lay out what you need. Reduce decision-making. Create an environment that supports action. Consistency builds self-trust. Every time you show up for yourself, you strengthen something powerful, self-trust. And self-trust changes everything. You stop second-guessing. You stop relying on motivation. You start believing in your ability to follow through. Affirmation. I trust myself to take action, even when it's uncomfortable. Another story. Action without motivation. Someone once said, I don't feel motivated, so I'll start later. Later never came. One day, they changed their approach. They stopped asking how they felt and started asking what needed to be done. They acted on low energy. They acted on bad days. They acted without applause. And slowly, life began responding. Opportunities appeared. Confidence grew. Momentum built. Not because motivation showed up, but because action did. Start today, not someday. Let me say this clearly. Someday is not coming. Later is a lie. Perfect conditions don't exist. There is only today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Today. What's one small action you can take right now? Do it. Then do it again tomorrow. That's how change happens. Direct call to you. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You don't need motivation. You need to move. Start messy. Start scared. Start tired. Just start. Quote, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Momentum changes how you feel. Here's the beautiful part. Once you start moving, your emotions follow. Energy increases. Clarity sharpens. Confidence grows. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. A final reminder before we close: you are capable of consistency. You are capable of discipline. You are capable of change. Not because you're special, but because you're willing. And willingness beats motivation every time. What comes next? Now it's time to slow down, just for a moment. To reflect, to integrate, to recognize how far you've come. In the final section, we'll bring everything together. We'll talk about reflection, meaning, and stepping forward with purpose. Because this journey isn't about pushing harder, it's about moving forward with intention. And you're already on your way. Take a breath. Right here, right now. Let everything you've heard settle for a moment. Because this isn't just another motivational video. This is a reminder, a wake-up call, a moment of truth. You didn't come here because you're lazy. You didn't come here because you're incapable. You came here because something inside you knows there's more for you. And that voice, it's not pressure, it's purpose. Looking back, what this was really about, this journey was never about motivation. It was about self-awareness, learning to see yourself clearly, honestly, without judgment, understanding your habits, your patterns, your excuses, and your potential. It was about mindset, realizing that the stories you tell yourself shape the life you live, that your thoughts aren't facts, and that you have the power to choose better ones. It was about goal setting, not dreaming vaguely, but deciding deliberately, choosing direction, breaking big dreams into manageable steps, turning intention into structure. It was about resilience, understanding that setbacks are not signs to stop. They're invitations to grow, proof that you're in the arena, not on the sidelines. And most importantly, it was about taking action, even when you don't feel ready, especially when you don't feel motivated, because action is where everything changes. The truth: you needed to hear motivation is unreliable, but you are not. You don't need to feel inspired to take responsibility. You don't need confidence to take a step. You don't need certainty to begin. You just need to move. Quote, "Don't wait for motivation. Act, and motivation will follow." The life you want isn't built in moments of excitement. It's built in moments of choice. Small decisions, repeated daily, even when no one is watching. Reflection: who are you becoming? Let me ask you something honestly. Who do you become if you keep doing what you're doing now? And who could you become if you chose differently, starting today? You don't need to change everything. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop abandoning yourself. Because every time you say tomorrow, every time you wait, every time you silence that inner nudge, you're not protecting yourself. You're postponing your life. This is your moment, not someday. Not when things calm down. Not when you feel ready. Now. Right now is the moment that matters. Right now is when you decide, will I keep drifting, or will I choose direction? Will I keep waiting, or will I take one step? Will I keep doubting, or will I trust myself enough to try? Affirmation: I am capable of change, even when it feels uncomfortable. A powerful reminder: you don't need to become someone new. You need to return to who you already are. The version of you that believes, that tries, that shows up, that keeps going. That version is still here. It never left. It's just been waiting for you to listen again. Your call to action, right now. So here's what I want you to do. Not later, not after this video ends. Right now, decide one small action you will take today. Make it simple. Make it doable. Commit to it fully. Then do it again tomorrow. And the next day. That's how confidence is built. That's how momentum grows. That's how lives change. Quote, "You don't need to see the whole path. Just take the next step." Speak this to yourself. Say this out loud or in your heart. I am done waiting for motivation. I trust myself to take action. I don't need perfection. I need progress. I show up, even when it's hard. I am becoming someone I respect. These aren't just words. They're commitments. When doubt returns, And there will be days when this feeling fades. Days when you forget. Days when doubt creeps back in. That doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. When that happens, come back to this moment. Remember this choice. Remember that you decided to stop waiting. Resilience isn't never falling. It's choosing to rise again. The bigger picture: imagine your life 6 months from now if you keep showing up. 1 year from now if you stay consistent. 5 years from now if you don't quit. The version of you in the future is counting on the decision you make today. Don't let them down. One final truth: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not lacking motivation. You are standing at the edge of change. And all that's missing is your decision to move. Closing message: so take the step. Make the call. Write the page. Start the habit. Begin the journey. Not because you feel motivated, but because you believe in yourself enough to try. And remember this: you don't need a miracle. You need momentum. And momentum starts with you. Right now.